if I were a client with a behavior that was derailing me,
Mm-hmm.
how would you work with me? How would you work with me to change that behavior?
It's a great question. I would start by, and I actually was just in clinic yesterday doing this with somebody. I would start by helping, as I tried to understand what your story was, like what was going on for you, I would just literally map out what the habit loop was. So I just did this with somebody that I saw for the first time yesterday, who came in he was binging and purging. So he had gained a bunch of weight from alcoholism, and he looked on the internet, and the internet said the fastest way to lose weight is purging, which is terrible. I don't know. Yeah, careful on the internet, folks. And so he started purging, and he lost a bunch of weight. And so the trigger would be, thinking about his weight, and then the behavior would be purging after he ate food, and then the temporary reward was that he was losing some weight. So we just mapped this out and helped him really understand what was actually happening in his experience. That was the first step. And then the next step is to really see how rewarding it is. And he's like, yeah, it's not rewarding at all. It does not feel good. And so whether it's, that's an extreme example, somebody in my psychiatric clinic, but this can happen for any of us, whether it's, binging on news, on social media, on Netflix, on whatever. First step is just to map this piece out. And then the second step is to really ask ourselves, how rewarding is this from an experiential standpoint? And I use the simple question, what am I getting from this? Not in a thinking way, but directly experientially. Like, what does it feel like? What does it feel like if I'm eating? What does it feel like in my stomach? If I'm, binging on Netflix or scrolling through social media, how's my mind feel? Am I foggy? Am I kind of zoned out? And, really seeing that cause and effect relationship, and then train people to become aware and bring in mindfulness practices. And that, so it's a 3-step process. It's relatively simple, not easy to do, which is why we've developed these step-by-step, app-based training programs to help people, 10 minutes a day walk through this and apply it into their own lives. But that's the basic process is, short moments, okay, map it out, see how rewarding it is, bring in mindfulness practice, repeat, repeat, repeat.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I can see based on what you've said that when I've got a bad habit, which taken to an extreme, actually, and when I bring awareness to it, it doesn't feel good. And I can kind of see how that could work. What about the creation of a good habit?
Yeah. So how would you define good habits?
Well, like for instance, someone who, really says that they want to exercise, mm-hmm. and that doesn't become something they actually do.
Yeah. Yeah. So here I would say the same principles apply, is really paying attention to what it's like when we're moving. So generally, what's it feel like when we sit on the couch all day versus even just going for a walk around the block? For me, it feels good to get up and move. And for most of us, unless we're injured or have some other issue, our bodies want to be in motion. They want to move at least sometime. And so we can just start at those very simple levels, is looking to see, well, what's it like when I don't exercise versus what's it like when I exercise, which is really different than, I think of it as shoulding. I should exercise, right? There's this joke, we should all over ourselves, because we get in this habit of, we have this thought, I should exercise. And then we force ourselves to exercise, which actually isn't very rewarding. And so that process, this is the New Year's resolution failure syndrome, if you want to think of it that way. that process is doomed to fail because we're doing it because we think we should, as compared to doing something because it's rewarding in itself. And so here, there's so many habits that we can tap into where we notice how rewarding they actually feel. So for example, if we want to break the habit of social media or being on our phone all the time, we can pay attention to what it's like when we're on our phone all the time versus having a really good conversation with somebody. When we feel connected with people, it feels good. So that in itself, we can just remember, oh, what's it like when I actually had a good conversation and I wasn't, distracted by my phone? It feels so much better than when we're totally distracted by our phones.
Yeah, great.